Welcome back to the channel BBC Coin. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out an ordinary penny, and discovering that it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, but for coin collectors and treasure hunters around the world, this is exactly the excitement that keeps the hobby alive. Today we are going to explore one fascinating piece of American history, the 1976 United States 1-cent coin featuring the word Liberty and produced with no mint mark. This small copper coin might appear simple at first glance, but behind it lies a story connected to American history, the celebration of independence, and the global world of coin collecting. Many people overlook pennies, yet some of them hold surprising value. The 1976 penny with no mint mark is one of those coins that collectors search for, hoping to find a rare example in exceptional condition. Let's dive into the history, design, rarity, and market value of this intriguing coin. First, let's talk about the historical context. The year 1976 was extremely important in the United States because it marked the bicentennial celebration, the 200th anniversary of the country's independence from Great Britain. To honor this historic moment, the United States Mint released special commemorative designs for several coins such as the quarter, half dollar, and dollar coin. These coins featured the dual dates 1776 to 1976. However, the 1-cent coin did not receive a special bicentennial design. Instead, it continued to use the classic Lincoln Memorial design that had been in circulation since 1959. Even though the design remained unchanged, the 1976 penny still holds historical significance because it was minted during this celebratory period in American history. Now let's look at the design of the coin itself. On the front side, also known as the obverse, the coin displays the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. This famous image was designed by Victor David Brenner and has been used on U.S. pennies since 1909. Above Lincoln's head you will see the phrase "I in God we trust," while the word Liberty appears to the left side of the portrait. On the right side of the coin you can see the year 1976. This design is one of the most recognizable coin portraits in the world and represents one of America's most respected presidents. On the reverse side, or the back of the coin, you will see the Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. This reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo. If you look very closely at the center of the memorial, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the building. Around the top edge of the coin appears the inscription United States of America, while the phrase 1 cent appears along the bottom. The coin was made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams with a diameter of about 19 millimeters. These specifications remained standard for pennies before the composition changed in the early 1980s. Now let's talk about what makes the 1976 penny with no mint mark special. In the United States, coins are produced at different mint facilities. Each mint typically places a small letter on the coin called a mint mark. For example, coins produced in Denver carry a D mint mark, while those made in San Francisco carry an S mint mark. But coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint traditionally did not carry a mint mark during many years of production. This means that if a 1976 penny does not show a mint mark under the date, it was produced in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of these pennies in 1976. In fact, more than 4.6 billion coins were struck there that year. Because such a huge quantity was produced, most of these coins are extremely common in circulation today. However, condition is everything in the coin collecting world. Most 1976 pennies that circulated in everyday transactions are only worth their face value of 1-cent coins that show wear, scratches, and dull color usually have little collector demand. In circulated condition, they are typically worth between 1 cent and a few cents. But when we start talking about coins in exceptional condition, things become much more interesting. Uncirculated examples that still display bright original copper color can sell for a few dollars depending on their grade. Coins graded around MS65 by professional grading services may sell for around $1 to $3. When a coin reaches extremely high grades such as MS67 or higher, the value can jump significantly. In some cases, these premium quality coins can sell for more than $100 or even several $100s in auctions. Now you may be wondering where the idea of a $1,200 value comes from. In rare cases, extraordinary coins with perfect or near perfect grading can reach very high prices. Coins graded at the very top level, such as MS-68, are extremely rare because it is difficult for a copper coin to remain flawless for decades. Exceptional specimens of the 1976 penny have been recorded selling for thousands of dollars when they achieve these elite grades at auction. Another factor that can dramatically increase the value of a 1976 penny is mint errors. Mint errors happen when something unusual occurs during the coin production process. These mistakes make the coin unique and highly desirable for collectors. One of the most famous errors is the double die obverse error. In this case, the design elements appear doubled because of a misalignment in the minting dies. If you look closely at the letters in Liberty, or In God We Trust, you may see a noticeable doubling effect. Coins with this type of error can sell for $50 to several $100 depending on their condition. Another popular error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not positioned properly during the striking process, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. These unusual coins can sell for anywhere from $25 to more than $200. Collectors also search for clipped planchet errors, die cracks, and the famous BIE error where a small raised line appears between the letters B and E in Liberty. These unique variations give ordinary pennies an exciting twist and can make them far more valuable than their face value. So how can you tell if your 1976 penny is valuable? First, check the condition. Coins that appear shiny, red, and free of scratches are more desirable than worn coins. Next, look carefully for unusual details or errors. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the lettering and design for doubling or irregularities. Finally, serious collectors often send their coins to professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. These organizations examine the coin, assign it a grade, and seal it in a protective holder. A professionally graded coin often sells for much higher prices because buyers trust its authenticity and condition. The truth is that most 1976 pennies found in everyday change are not worth a fortune. But every once in a while, someone discovers a rare high-grade or error coin that turns an ordinary penny into a valuable collectible. That possibility is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Somewhere out there, hidden in a jar of loose change or an old coin collection, there could be a rare 1976 1-cent coin waiting to be discovered. And for collectors, the thrill of that discovery is priceless. So next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look at the date, check for a mint mark, and examine the word Liberty. That small copper coin might just be a tiny piece of history and possibly a hidden treasure, because in the world of coins, even 1 cent can tell a powerful story. Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins among collectors and treasure hunters, the 1982 United States 1-cent coin with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny. But hidden inside its history, design, and metal composition is a story that has fascinated collectors for decades. To understand why the 1982 penny is so special, we need to go back to the early 1980s. During that time, the price of copper had risen dramatically. In fact, the cost of producing a copper penny was becoming higher than the coin's face value of 1 cent. The United States Mint faced a serious problem. They needed a cheaper way to produce pennies without eliminating the coin entirely. So in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision. They changed the composition of the penny. For decades, pennies had been made mostly from copper. Before 1982, a typical penny contained about 95% copper and weighed about 3.11 grams. But starting in 1982, the Mint began producing pennies made from zinc with only a thin copper coating. These new coins weighed only 2.5 grams. This major change created one of the most confusing and fascinating years in the entire history of U.S. coinage. In fact, the year 1982 produced several different varieties of pennies. Some were copper. Some were zinc. Some had large date numbers. Others had small date numbers. And some coins were struck at different mints across the country. Among these varieties is the 1982 penny with no mint mark. Now you might be wondering, What does it mean when a coin has no mint mark? In the United States, coins are usually produced at different mint facilities. The most common mint marks are D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and historically no mint mark for Philadelphia. So when a penny has no mint mark under the date, it typically means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Millions and millions of pennies were struck in Philadelphia in 1982. However, because of the metal transition happening that year, several unique combinations were created. Some Philadelphia pennies were made of copper. Others were made of zinc. Some have large dates, while others have small dates. And this is where things start to get interesting. Most 1982 pennies are worth only a few cents today. Many of them still circulate in everyday pocket change. But certain varieties, especially those in excellent condition or with unusual characteristics, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to collectors. In fact, rare versions from the 1982 series have sold for prices reaching thousands of dollars at auctions. Some rare transitional errors have sold for as much as $18,000 because they were struck using the wrong metal planchet during the transition from copper to zinc. But what about the 1982 1-cent coin with no mint mark? Collectors are particularly interested in identifying whether these coins are copper or zinc. The easiest way to tell the difference is by checking the coin's weight. If the coin weighs around 3.11 grams, it is likely the older copper composition. If it weighs about 2.5 grams, then it is the newer zinc type. This small difference might seem insignificant, but in the world of numismatics, tiny details can make a massive difference in value. Another feature collectors study carefully is the size and shape of the date. In 1982, the mint used two different date styles known as the large date and the small date. The numbers on the coin appear slightly different depending on the style. These subtle variations create different collectible varieties within the same year. For example, the number 2 in the small date version appears thinner and more delicate, while the large date version has thicker and more pronounced numbers. Why does this matter? Because collectors love rarity and variety. The more unusual a coin is, the more collectors want it. And when demand rises while supply remains extremely limited, the value of that coin can skyrocket. Now let's talk about condition, because condition is everything in coin collecting. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily circulated to mint state. A coin that has been worn down from years of use might only be worth a few cents. But a coin that looks almost perfect, as if it just left the mint, can be worth dramatically more. High-grade 1982 pennies in near-perfect condition have sold for thousands of dollars because finding flawless examples from that year is surprisingly difficult. Some top-grade specimens have sold for over $15,000 simply because they are extremely rare in perfect condition. But here's the exciting part. Many people still have jars of old coins sitting in their homes. They might have inherited them from parents or grandparents, or they might simply be spare change collected over the years. Hidden inside those jars could be a valuable 1982 penny. Imagine discovering that the small copper coin you ignored for years is actually worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Stories like this have made the 1982 penny famous among collectors and treasure hunters alike. So how can you check if your 1982 penny with no mint mark might be valuable? First, look at the date carefully. Determine whether it is a large date or small date variety. Second, weigh the coin using a precise digital scale. Remember, copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. Third, examine the coin's condition. Coins with fewer scratches and stronger details are usually worth more. Fourth, check for minting errors. Some coins were struck incorrectly, producing doubled letters, off-center designs, or other unusual features. These mint errors can make a coin far more valuable than normal. Finally, if you believe you have a rare coin, consider having it examined by a professional coin grading service. Experts can verify authenticity and assign an official grade, which often increases collector confidence and market value. For collectors, the thrill is not just about money. It is about history, discovery, and the excitement of searching for hidden treasures. Every coin carries a story. It may have passed through thousands of hands, traveled across cities and states, or rested quietly in a drawer for decades. The 1982 1-cent coin with no mint mark represents a turning point in American coinage history. It marks the moment when the United States Mint changed the metal composition of the penny forever. And because of that change, a simple penny became a fascinating puzzle for collectors around the world. So next time you see a penny lying on the ground, you might want to pick it up. It could just be 1 cent, or it might be a piece of history worth far more than you ever imagined. Because sometimes, the smallest coins hide the biggest stories, and the next valuable 1982 penny could be waiting quietly in someone's pocket right now. If you want, I can also write a clickbait YouTube title, a YouTube description with SEO keywords tags that help the video go viral. Today we are going to explore the fascinating story of the 1984 United States Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. We will uncover why collectors are hunting for this coin, what makes certain versions rare, and how some examples can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's start with the basics. The 1984 1-cent coin is part of the famous Lincoln Cent series, one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. This coin features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front. Lincoln has appeared on the penny since 1909, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. On the front of the coin you will see Lincoln's profile facing right, along with the word Liberty and the year 1984. The phrase "I in God we trust" appears above Lincoln's head. On the back of the coin is the famous Lincoln Memorial Building, which was used on pennies from 1959 until 2008. Now here is something important. Some 1984 pennies have a small letter under the date. That letter is called a mint mark, and it tells us where the coin was produced. In 1984, pennies were made at 3 different United States Mint facilities. Coins with the letter D were made in Denver. Coins with the letter S were made in San Francisco as special proof coins. But coins with no mint mark were produced in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Mint produced more than 8 billion pennies in 1984, which means the regular coin itself is very common. Because of that, many normal 1984 pennies are only worth their face value of 1 cent. So how can a coin that common become worth over $1,200? The answer lies in rare varieties, special minting errors, and coin condition. One of the most famous versions of the 1984 no mint mark penny is known as the double ear error. This variety was created because of a mistake during the coin's production process. When the die that stamped the coin was made, the image of Lincoln's ear was accidentally doubled. This caused the coin to show what looks like a second earlobe beneath the original one. Collectors call this the double die obverse, or DDO. The most well-known example is often nicknamed the double ear penny. If you look closely at Lincoln's ear on these coins, you can see a clear extra lobe underneath. It is not damage, and it is not wear. It is part of the original design stamped onto the coin. This tiny detail can make a massive difference in value. Circulated examples of the double ear error can sell for around $50 or more, depending on their condition. But high-grade examples in excellent condition can reach several $100s, and sometimes even thousands. Some auction records show these coins selling for over $3,000 when preserved in mint condition. That is incredible when you think about it. A coin that originally had a value of just 1 cent could become worth thousands simply because of a small minting mistake. But the double ear error is not the only reason a 1984 no mint mark penny could be valuable. Another factor that greatly affects value is the coin's condition. Coin collectors use a grading system to measure how well a coin has been preserved. Coins that have never been used in circulation are called mint state coins. These coins still have their original shine and sharp details. When a 1984 penny survives in extremely high-grade condition, collectors become very interested in it. A flawless red-colored example graded at the highest levels can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. Some pristine specimens have sold for more than $9,000 due to their rarity and perfect condition. Why are these high-grade coins so valuable? Because most pennies from 1984 were heavily used in everyday transactions. They were tossed into pockets, dropped into vending machines, and stored in jars. Over time they became scratched, worn, and dull. Finding one that still looks brand new after decades is extremely rare. Collectors also pay attention to the color of the coin. Lincoln cents are made from copper-plated zinc, and over time the copper surface reacts with air and moisture. This causes the coin to change color from bright red to brown. Coins that still have their original bright red color are the most desirable. These are called red coins by collectors and grading services. Red coins usually command much higher prices than brown ones. Another interesting thing about the 1984 penny is its composition. Before 1982, most pennies were made mostly from copper. But because copper became expensive, the United States Mint changed the formula. Starting in the early 1980s, pennies were made mostly from zinc with a thin copper coating. The 1984 penny follows this new composition. It contains about 99% zinc with a thin copper layer on the surface. This change made the coins cheaper to produce but also more vulnerable to corrosion and wear. Because of that, surviving high-quality coins are even harder to find. So how can you tell if you have a valuable 1984 penny? First, check the date. Make sure it says 1984. Next, look under the date. If there is no letter, then the coin was minted in Philadelphia. After that, examine Lincoln's ear carefully. Use a magnifying glass if you can. If you notice what looks like a second earlobe beneath the original ear, you might have the famous double ear error. Also check the coin's condition. If it still has a bright reddish shine and very little wear, it might be worth much more than an ordinary penny. However, it is important to remember that many online listings exaggerate coin values. Some sellers list ordinary pennies for hundreds or thousands of dollars even when they are not rare. Experts warn that collectors should always verify authenticity before paying high prices for coins. If you think you have a valuable coin, the best step is to have it examined by a professional coin grading service such as PCGS or NGC. These organizations authenticate coins and assign official grades that help determine their true market value. Coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It is a treasure hunt through history. Every coin tells a story about the time when it was made, the technology used to produce it, and the journey it took through the hands of countless people. The 1984 United States Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark is a perfect example of how something small and ordinary can become extraordinary. Whether it is the famous double ear error or a perfectly preserved mint state specimen, these coins remind us that hidden treasures can still exist in everyday places. So the next time you receive change at a store or find an old jar of coins at home, take a closer look. That tiny penny might just be a rare collectible worth far more than 1 cent, and who knows? The next coin you discover could be a hidden treasure worth more than $1,200. If you want, I can also help you with a viral YouTube title, SEO description, and tags thumbnail text idea for high CTR hook plus retention pattern for coin videos. Today we are exploring one of the most talked about coins among collectors, the 1990 United States Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. This small copper-colored coin might look ordinary, but in the world of coin collecting it has sparked curiosity, excitement, and even treasure hunting. Some rare versions of this coin have sold for astonishing prices, making people search through old coin jars and piggy banks hoping to discover a hidden gem. Before we talk about the value, let's first understand the coin itself. The 1990 1-cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln Cent series. On the front of the coin you will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and has been used on American pennies for more than a century. Above Lincoln's head you will see the word Liberty. To the left of the portrait is the phrase "In God We Trust." Below Lincoln's shoulder is the date 1990. Normally you would also see a small mint mark under the date showing where the coin was produced. But in some cases the coin has no mint mark at all. The reverse side of the coin shows the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. This design was created by Frank Gasparo and was used on pennies from 1959 until 2008. Around the memorial you will see the words United States of America and 1 cent. Now you might be wondering why the missing mint mark is so interesting. In 1990 pennies were produced at several United States mint locations including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint traditionally produced coins without a mint mark, while other mints used letters like D for Denver and S for San Francisco. Because of this, many regular circulation pennies from Philadelphia simply show no mint mark. However, there is another much rarer situation that collectors are hunting for. In extremely rare cases, a proof coin that should have been struck at the San Francisco Mint accidentally left the mint without the S mint mark. These coins are known as the famous 1990 No S proof Lincoln cents. Fewer than 200 examples are believed to exist, which makes them incredibly valuable in the collector market. Imagine a tiny mistake at the mint creating a coin worth thousands of dollars. Proof coins are special coins made for collectors. They are produced with polished dies and planchets which give them a mirror-like surface and sharp details. They are usually sold in collector sets rather than released into everyday circulation. Because they are carefully inspected during production, errors like a missing mint mark are extremely rare. When such an error slips through the system, it becomes a legendary coin among collectors. Now let's talk about the value. Most ordinary 1990 pennies without a mint mark that came from the Philadelphia Mint are very common. In circulated condition, they are usually worth only a few cents above their face value. Many sell for around 10 to 25 cents depending on their condition. But condition changes everything in the coin world. If a regular 1990 penny without a mint mark is preserved in extremely high mint state condition, collectors may pay much more for it. Some perfect examples graded at the highest levels have sold for several $1,000s at auction because pristine coins are extremely difficult to find. And then there is the ultimate prize: the legendary 1990 No S proof Lincoln cent. Because fewer than 200 of these coins exist, collectors compete fiercely to own one. Depending on the grade and condition, these coins can sell for thousands of dollars and in some cases even more than $20,000. That is an incredible price for a coin that originally had a value of only 1 cent. This is exactly why coin collectors constantly examine their coins with magnifying glasses and special lighting. One small detail can make a massive difference in value. If you want to check whether your 1990 penny might be valuable, there are a few things you should look for. First, examine the surface of the coin. Proof coins have a mirror-like background with frosted images. If your coin looks shiny like a mirror with sharp details, it could possibly be a proof coin. Second, look carefully under the date 1990. If there is absolutely no mint mark and the coin has proof characteristics, it might be one of the rare No S proof coins. Third, check the condition of the coin. Coins that have been heavily circulated and scratched are usually worth less. Coins that appear bright, clean, and well preserved are more valuable to collectors. Fourth, consider getting the coin graded by a professional coin grading service. Organizations such as PCGS or NGC examine coins and assign official grades that help determine their market value. Collectors rely on these professional grades when buying and selling rare coins. Another interesting fact about the 1990 penny is its composition. Since 1982, most United States pennies have been made from a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This means the coin is not solid copper like older pennies. It weighs about 2.5 grams and measures about 19 millimeters in diameter. Despite being made mostly of zinc, the coin still maintains the classic copper color that people associate with pennies. Coin collecting is more than just money. It is also about history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. Every coin tells a story about the time it was created, the people who designed it, and the journey it has taken through decades of circulation. The 1991 cent coin is a perfect example of this. Billions were produced for everyday use, yet a tiny minting mistake created one of the most famous modern coin rarities. This is why collectors always say never ignore small coins. That old penny sitting in a drawer or hidden in a jar could potentially be worth much more than you think. Even if it is not worth thousands of dollars, it might still hold historical or collectible value. So the next time you receive change at a store or find an old coin in your house, take a moment to look at it carefully. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine the details. Because hidden among ordinary coins could be a rare treasure waiting to be discovered. The 1990 Liberty 1 cent coin with no mint mark reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry fascinating stories and surprising value. For coin collectors and treasure hunters alike, it proves that history sometimes hides in the palm of your hand. And who knows? The next valuable coin might already be in your pocket. If you want, I can also create a better viral YouTube hook and intro, first 15 seconds, SEO title and description tags to rank your video faster. Today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating modern coins in American numismatics, the 1993 United States Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. This small coin has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Before we talk about the possible value of this coin, let's start with its design and history. The 1993 1-cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial Penny series. This design was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the front of the coin you will see the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. This portrait was originally designed by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on U.S. pennies in 1909. Above Lincoln's head you can read the famous American motto, "In God We Trust." On the left side of the coin you will see the word Liberty. On the right side appears the date 1993. If your coin has no small letter under the date, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint traditionally had no mint mark for most of history. Now turn the coin over and you will see the reverse design that made this penny famous for nearly 50 years. The back shows the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. Above the memorial appears the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, which means out of many one. Below the memorial you can read United States of America and the denomination 1 cent. At first glance this coin may look ordinary. In fact, billions of them were produced in 1993. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck more than 5 billion pennies that year. Because of this massive production, most 1993 pennies you find in circulation are worth only their face value of 1 cent. However, the fascinating part of coin collecting is that sometimes the smallest differences can turn a common coin into a valuable collectible. The key factor that determines value is condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale to determine how well preserved a coin is. Coins that circulated in everyday use usually show scratches, wear, and discoloration. These coins typically have very little collector value, but coins that were never used in circulation can look almost perfect. These are called mint state coins. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. For the 1993 penny with no mint mark, an ordinary circulated example might only be worth a few cents. Some guides estimate typical values around 15 to 20 cents for lightly circulated pieces. However, things start getting interesting when we talk about high-grade examples. If a 1993 Philadelphia penny survives in brilliant red condition with no damage or discoloration, collectors may pay much higher prices. Certain uncirculated coins graded MS-67 or higher can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on demand. In fact, one extremely high-grade example of a 1993 penny with no mint mark graded MS-69 was sold at auction for over $3,000. That is a huge difference for a coin that originally had a value of just 1 cent. But there is another reason collectors hunt for these coins: rare mint errors. Mint errors happen when something unusual occurs during the coin production process. This could include double strikes, off-center designs, die cracks, or unusual spacing in the lettering. Some collectors carefully examine the word America on the reverse of the coin to see if the letters A and M are very close together. This feature is sometimes called a close AM variety and can attract extra interest from collectors. Another possible variation involves doubled images where parts of the design appear slightly duplicated due to a misalignment during the minting process. Coins with dramatic errors can become extremely valuable because they are rare and unique. This is why collectors all over the world constantly check their pocket change. Even a tiny detail can transform an ordinary coin into a collector's prize. Now let's talk about the metal composition of the 1993 penny. Beginning in the early 1980s, the United States Mint changed the composition of pennies. Instead of being mostly copper, the coins were made with a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This allowed the mint to reduce production costs. However, this copper-plated zinc composition has an interesting side effect. Over time, many coins develop spots, corrosion, or surface problems. Because of this, perfectly preserved red examples become much harder to find. Collectors place a premium on coins that still retain their original red shine after decades. When such a coin receives a top grade from professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC, its value can increase dramatically. This is one reason why rare high-grade examples sometimes reach prices of $1,000 or more. But remember something very important. Just because a coin is old does not automatically mean it is valuable. The overwhelming majority of 1993 pennies in circulation today are worth only a few cents. The real value appears only when the coin is in exceptional condition or contains a rare error. So how can you check if your coin might be valuable? First, look closely under the date. If there is no letter, your coin was minted in Philadelphia. Second, examine the surface of the coin. Look for strong details, sharp edges, and a bright copper color. Coins with minimal wear are much more desirable. Third, check for unusual features such as doubled letters, off-center strikes, or cracks in the design. Finally, if you believe your coin may be special, consider having it examined by a professional coin dealer or grading service. Coin collecting is not just about money. It is about history, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery. Every coin tells a story. The 1993 Liberty 1-cent coin represents a moment in American history, a small piece of metal that traveled through countless hands, pockets, and cash registers. Yet somewhere out there, a perfectly preserved example may still be hiding in a jar of spare change. And that is what makes coin hunting so exciting. A tiny coin that most people ignore could one day become the highlight of someone's collection. So the next time you receive change at a store or find an old jar of pennies in your house, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for the word Liberty. And see if there is a mint mark or not. You might just be holding a piece of history. And who knows? That small copper coin could be worth far more than you ever imagined. If you enjoy discovering rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to keep exploring the fascinating world of coin collecting. Because sometimes the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises. If you want, I can also write a stronger viral YouTube hook for the first 15 seconds SEO title, description, and tags for YouTube, another 1,200 to 1,500 words script about a different rare coin. Today's video, we are diving deep into the history, design, rarity, and potential value of the 2010 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. By the end of this video, you might want to check every coin jar in your house because one of these coins could be hiding in plain sight. Let's begin with the story behind this coin. The year 2010 marked a major moment in the history of the Lincoln cent. For more than 50 years, the reverse side of the penny featured the Lincoln Memorial Building. That design had been used since 1959. But in 2010, the United States Mint introduced a completely new permanent design on the back of the coin called the Union Shield. This shield design represents the unity of the United States and honors Abraham Lincoln's role in preserving the nation during the Civil War. The shield includes 13 vertical stripes representing the original 13 states, while a horizontal bar across the top symbolizes the federal government that holds the nation together. Across the banner on the shield, you can read the famous Latin phrase E pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This powerful symbolism made the 2010 penny historically important even before collectors began examining its value. Now let's talk about the front of the coin. The obverse side features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase "In God We Trust," while the word Liberty appears on the left side of the portrait. On the right side, you will see the year 2010. Below the date is where you normally find the mint mark. This small letter indicates which United States Mint facility produced the coin. Coins can have 3 possible mint marks. D for Denver mints, for San Francisco mint, or no mint mark at all. If a 2010 penny has no mint mark, it means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which historically produced pennies without a mint mark. This is why many people mistakenly believe that a coin without a mint mark is rare. In reality, Philadelphia produced more than 1.9 billion of these coins in 2010, making them extremely common in circulation. However, this is where things start to get interesting. Even though billions of these coins were produced, the condition of a coin can dramatically change its value. Most 2010 pennies that have been used in everyday circulation are only worth about 1 cent. But coins that remain in perfect or near perfect condition can become very desirable to collectors. Coin collectors grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-70 would be considered absolutely perfect, while coins in lower grades show more wear and imperfections. Some extremely high-grade examples of the 2010 penny have sold at auction for impressive prices. In fact, one of the most valuable examples reached more than $1,000 when graded in near-perfect condition by professional grading services. This is why you may see listings online claiming that the value of a rare 2010 Liberty 1-cent coin starts around $1,200 or more. Especially when the coin is in exceptional mint state condition or has unique characteristics that collectors want. Another factor that can dramatically increase the value of a coin is minting errors. During the coin making process, mistakes sometimes occur. These mistakes create what collectors call error coins. Because they are unusual and often rare, error coins can sell for much higher prices than regular coins. Some possible errors found on 2010 pennies include off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die cracks. An off-center strike happens when the blank coin is not properly positioned during the stamping process. As a result, part of the design appears shifted to one side. These coins are very popular with collectors because the mistake is clearly visible. Broad strike errors occur when the coin is struck outside the retaining collar of the minting press. This causes the coin to spread out slightly and appear flatter and wider than normal. Another fascinating error is the die crack. After striking millions of coins, the metal dies used to stamp designs can begin to crack. When this happens, the cracks appear on the coins as raised lines. Some collectors even give these coins special nicknames depending on where the cracks appear in the design. When a 2010 Liberty penny with no mint mark has one of these errors and remains in excellent condition, its value can rise dramatically. Now let's discuss the physical characteristics of the coin. The 2010 Lincoln Shield penny has a diameter of about 19 millimeters and weighs approximately 2.5 grams. It is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating, which gives it that familiar reddish color. Although the coin is small, every detail in its design carries symbolic meaning. From Lincoln's portrait representing leadership and unity to the shield symbolizing the strength of the American nation, the coin tells an important historical story. Another interesting detail is the designer initials found on the coin. On Lincoln's shoulder, you can find the tiny letters VDB, which stand for Victor David Brenner, the original designer of the Lincoln cent. On the reverse side, you will also find the initials of the designers responsible for the shield design. These tiny details are part of what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Now here is the big question. How do you know if your 2010 Liberty 1-cent coin is valuable? First, check the condition of the coin. If it looks brand new with no scratches, no discoloration, and strong original color, it could potentially be worth much more than face value. Second, inspect the coin carefully for mint errors. Use a magnifying glass to look for unusual features such as misaligned designs, cracks, or missing details. Third, consider having the coin professionally graded by a coin grading service. Professional grading companies assign an official grade and encapsulate the coin in a protective holder. This certification helps collectors determine the true market value. Coins with very high grades can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and demand, and that is why collectors are always searching through rolls of pennies, jars of loose change, and even old piggy banks. Because sometimes the smallest coin can hold a surprising amount of value. The 2010 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark may look like an ordinary penny at first glance. But in the world of coin collecting, even common coins can become valuable when they are preserved in exceptional condition or display unusual minting errors. So the next time you receive a handful of change, take a closer look at those pennies. You might just discover a tiny piece of American history worth far more than 1 cent, and who knows? That small copper coin could even be the rare 2010 Liberty penny collectors are willing to pay $1,200 or more to own. If you enjoyed learning about rare coins and hidden treasures and everyday pocket change, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next coin discovery. Because the next valuable coin we talk about might already be sitting in your pocket. If you want, I can also write A stronger viral YouTube intro, first 10 seconds hook, SEO title plus description plus tags to help your coin video rank on YouTube.